From the iShin Broadcast Studio, it's the Tool Time Podcast.
Hello and welcome to an all-new episode of the Tool Time Podcast. I'm Nadine Vita, and I'm the editor of TechShop.
And I'm Eric Garba, ASE Certified Master Automobile Technician.
And joining us from Rislone today, we have
Clayton Parks, Strategic Development VP.
I'm Eric Sims, the Product Development and Quality Control Manager.
Gentlemen, thank you guys so much for joining us today here live in the studio at Babcock's headquarters. We are very excited, and I think we have a lot to discuss. So let's just dive right in. Does that sound all right?
Sounds good.
All right.
Let's just start off with the history of Rislone. Can you guys tell us a little bit about the company and your history?
Yeah, our parent company is Barge Products, and we bought Rislone back in 2006. Our company goes back to 1947, but Rislone is actually going back to 1921, so we celebrated our 100th year about 3 years ago. So old-time brand. Back when engine oils were very, very poor, they had an engine treatment, which had detergents and other packages in it that enhanced oil. So oils have caught up, and then Rislone always kind of kept ahead of that. And then when we bought them in 2006, really grew the product line into what it is today with some of the new products that we're going to talk about today.
Very exciting.
That's awesome. Over 100 years old. That's fantastic.
A lot to be proud
That's
of.
Very cool, yeah. So we see you've brought some diesel exhaust fluid products with you today. And this is an exciting topic because it's really a subject that technicians and consumers are really still learning a lot about. But before we get into talking specifically about these, can you tell us a little bit about the emission systems on these light-duty diesel cars and trucks and some of the problems that we encounter?
Yep. The number one issue that we've been hearing about and doing research for quite a few years now, maybe 2 to 3 years or so, the number one issue is that, the DEF fluid that you're adding to those diesel vehicles is a concentrated mix of urea and water. And when there's evaporation that occurs, the urea can actually evaporate from that water, like I said, and it will start to crystallize on the surfaces inside the emission system. So the DEF injectors, the SCR where it's going through, and then somewhat further down the line. So that crystallization can start to build up. It'll start throwing codes in the diesel vehicles. And from there, they can actually go into what is called a limp mode, where it might not let you drive over 50, 55 miles an hour, and it will start just continuing to decrease from there until you can take it into a shop or basically get the system cleaned out.
Yeah, and this DEF system is just one piece of a much larger emission system. We came out with a DPF product for the diesel particulate filter a few years ago after some research of what are the problems these vehicles are having and what could a possible chemical solution be. And then after we developed that, we looked at the SCR, which is where the DEF fluid goes into these systems, and we're seeing other issues that a fuel additive wouldn't be able to solve. So we came up with this diesel exhaust fluid additive that you're actually adding to the DEF to be able to prevent some of these problems, and one, if you're having some of these problems, to be able to clean it up.
Okay. So you have the diesel particulate filter, which is the first component of the system, and then the SCR, or the selective catalyst reduction, that works with the diesel exhaust fluid, correct?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting. So you mentioned the diesel DPF exhaust and emission systems cleaner. Can you tell us a little bit more about that product?
Sure. Yeah, that's this product here, and what we have done, it goes in the diesel fuel itself. And the biggest problems we're seeing with those vehicles is people that buy a Ram Cummins, a Ford Power Stroke, or the GM Duramax, and they're not using them every day for what they're intended to be doing, towing the trailers and driving distances.
Okay.
So if you're driving short distances, which a lot of people are doing with these, just going to
Right.
work or running to the store, it never gets up to temp. And this diesel particulate filter, it basically cleans itself at higher temperatures. And it does it a little bit when you're just driving all the time, and then it can go into a regen if it meets, it's up to temp and you're driving a distance, and a light will come on until it's doing that. And when it does that, it reduces power because it's injecting diesel fuel into the exhaust system, and so you're using more fuel to do it too. And then if those start to get clogged, they're going to try to happen more and more often.
Okay.
And with adding this product, one of the key features is it lowers the temperature that the regeneration can happen at. So it allows that filter to be cleaned out much more efficiently.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's great to know.
Absolutely.
I didn't even think about the fact that so many people are just driving these trucks, especially back and forth to work, and they're not really heating up.
Definitely.
You know, to allow that particulate filter to clean out. So
Yep.
yeah, that's
Clayton, how often would you recommend using this specific product?
Yeah, about every 5,000 miles.
Okay.
Is so it's not something that you have to use all the time, but just to aid in that cleaning of the filter. So if it's already dirty, to get it cleaned up, and then to keep it cleaned up.
Does the product comply to the federal requirements?
Yeah, so it is EPA registered, something
Okay.
a lot of consumers aren't aware of, but fuel additives, whether for gasoline or diesel, have to be registered with the EPA. So you've given them your formulation. They want to make sure that it's going to work, not necessarily going to work in the system, but that it's not going to cause any issues. You don't want any of those unintended consequences.
Absolutely. Now, P242F is a diesel particulate filter restriction code. Will this product help to clear that code?
Yes. Yeah, there's a small handful of codes that we know are related to where there's sensors that measure the pressure at the beginning of the filter and pressures that measure the output of after the filter. And when that is too high, they create a in their software system to measure these. So there's certain parameters there, and it'll turn on different codes. So yeah, the codes that we have listed are the ones that. Not going to say we can fix everything, but there's a good chance we're going to be able to take care of it, and you're going to get much more useful life out of the vehicle.
Outstanding.
That's awesome. That's great to hear.
Super
Big
helpful.
help for technicians.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So this product that goes in the fuel. So that's a great to know there, and that there's a couple of separate products. Now, can you talk a little bit about the DEF and SCR emission system cleaner?
Yeah, so we have two different products right now. What we kind of call our clean up and then our keep clean. So our DEF Distal Crystal Clean product is our part number 4784. And what that's going to do is those codes I mentioned. If you already have an issue with that crystallization in your vehicle and you know that it needs a good clean out, that's the product you're going to go to first and foremost. Follow our dosage. There are also some codes on there that we list that we know that we can help you with. Then our second product over here is what we call kind of our clean or keep clean. So this is our diesel DEF treatment, part number 4780. And what you're going to do with that one is if you had an initial issue and our product helped to clean it up, this one is going to be kind of your ongoing product you're going to want to use. So it's a smaller dose, but what it'll do is help keep that crystallization from coming back. And then even if you have a brand new vehicle and you know that this is an issue, which all these systems do have, this is something great that you can just start using right from the get-go to just keep that from happening in your system at all.
That's fantastic. Now, can you remind me again on how and when the crystallization occurs?
Really pretty much starts occurring the second, the fluid comes in contact with anything. We have an injector here for the SCR system, and you can see inside that it's extremely crystallized. Mm-hmm. So the intervals are not really, well known per se. But like I said, using our product off the get-go, there's two pieces to that formulation. One's a surfactant and one's a detergent. So the surfactant that's in them, that helps to create a layer basically on top of the DEF fluid to keep that evaporation from occurring and keep that crystallization from starting to build up. And then the other side of that is a detergent where if there is crystallization, it kind of helps to blast and clean that stuff up. And then from there, the surfactants carry it back into the actual liquid, and from there should be no more issues.
All right, fantastic. So the crystallization actually takes place in the injector primarily.
In the injector and in the SCR system, pretty much anything that urea comes in contact with.
Okay,
I mean, if you
happen
spill a little
anywhere.
bit while
Okay.
filling, you see, around the cap of the actual, filling port, you'll see crystals building up on that location as well. So it's pretty heavy.
Yeah, absolutely. So how often would you recommend using this product?
You're using the treatment every time you add fluid. So most people are buying a 2.5 gallon cube
Okay.
box, and you just only have to use a couple ounces each time that you're putting that cube in.
Presented from the Ishin Broadcast Studio at Babcock's Media.
And the cleaner, like you said, that's just basically one single use to take care of the crystallization.
Correct.
And then continued use of the treatment.
Yes,
Absolutely.
correct.
Yep.
Awesome. Again, that's there are some common NOx catalyst efficiency codes And this will help with those codes
Yeah,
as
so
well?
you have things like if the injector starts to get clogged up, it measures the pressure that the pump is actually to spray it out. If it sees the pressure is out of range, that's a code that can actually come up that we can help with. And as mentioned, that's a common one right there. Even inside the exhaust, we've seen where this injector is spraying into the hot exhaust, and there's a mixer inside there. It's just some plates in most of them that will get it mixed equally into the exhaust. It'll start filling up in there where it's almost blocking off the exhaust itself. Is how bad some of this can get.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah,
And we do list most of the codes that we can help with right on the product, and our
That's very
website has a
helpful.
Oh,
lot
that's
more
awesome.
information
Yeah.
as well.
Very cool.
Very helpful.
You know, Nadine years ago, and I'm sure Clay and Eric, you remember, you know, they used to be a joke in the industry about your muffler bearing going bad. You know, and of course, if you were a young tech and you didn't know, you might get, you know,
Right.
caught by that. You know, well, you know, as technicians, we're always learning new stuff. Well, you can imagine what I thought. First thing I heard about exhaust fluid, I thought, wait a minute, is that a real thing? But you know, it is.
Or the bleeper fluid. You hear
The
that one
bleeper
too?
fluid, yeah,
You
yeah.
send somebody into the parts store to get some of that. Yeah, I mean, and with what's changing in the regulations for the U.S., this has been out since around 2011. But there's some new diesel regulations that are coming too, where some of these systems on the vehicle, they're talking about multiple, like the DPF filter, where you might have two to be able to get the emissions down to the regulations need. And then also with the DEF fluid, there's a certain amount that's actually injected in. They're talking it's going to be a higher level, so it's going to be using even more on some
wow.
of these
Okay.
newer engines.
Yeah, we've talked before too, you know, a lot of people with these vehicles, they know they put DEF fluid in, they don't know why, and they don't know that this crystallization can even occur. So we've gotten a lot of good feedback just on that regard, and you know, you go look on blogs and things like that, and people are starting to say, I'm getting these codes, you know, what is going on? Like this system, I'm just putting this fluid in. So it's great for people to have a product like this, absolutely.
So now, does the DPF exhaust and emissions cleaner that goes into the fuel system, does that have any effect on the SCR as far as helping it and what occurs there?
No, not really. What we see is that there's two elements that survive the combustion process with that product, and those are what's carried to the filter. And from there, that's what helps to clean out that actual DPF filter. So from what we've seen, there is no extra impact on the actual SCR and the crystallization. So that's why we wanted to develop these other two products, is to help with something along those lines.
Yeah,
Okay.
but there is on a lot of the diesel vehicles what would be thought of as a catalytic converter. They call it a DOC, or a diesel oxidation catalyst. So the fuel product does actually aid in that too. So a lot of these systems, you have three components and they're all together. Now bigger, heavy duty, you can replace some of those separately, but for what we would talk about, the light duty, medium duty trucks, you have this piece of metal that's 6 feet long where you have the DOC, you have the DPF, and you have the SCR. So if one of those components fail and you're not able to clean them up or have a solution like that, you're replacing everything. So it's not like you can just replace the
Okay.
SCR. Very, very expensive. You're talking $4,000 to
absolutely.
$6,000 for some of these
Right.
parts.
Yeah, so that could definitely, thinking about the cost to replace that is going to make you think about maintaining it properly using
Yeah.
products
And
such as this.
it used to be kind of the thing was to delete, as they would talk about on the diesels. And that was the old solution. But with the EPA cracking down the last few years on the companies that were selling either the programmers to do it, the pipes to do it, and then now really going after the shops that were installing these, that's really a bad word now. So that inexpensive solution that people used to do is not really viable anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just the environment is just too important. Yeah, and we've got to take care of it. Absolutely.
Well, you don't really see the black smoke coming out of the diesels. I mean, that was always the negative. People, oh, they
Right.
smell and they smoke, and I don't want a diesel. I can't say when the last time I seen a diesel truck on the road with black smoke coming out of them. And so it's, just think about what is that doing to the environment and actually keeping those systems so that they work properly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that is a great. Yeah, it's a very good point. Because you really don't see it anymore.
No,
Yeah.
very important.
Now, would it be safe to say that basically all of the diesel exhaust fluids are the same thing? So, from a compatibility standpoint, I mean, these are going to work in anything, no matter who makes the diesel exhaust fluid. Or,
That's pretty much correct.
Yep. There's an ISO standard for those, so it's 32.5% urea, and the rest is water. And you might get 1% plus or minus on that, but it's a very tight specification, and we've made sure to formulate specifically for that. And we've seen actually, because storage of DEF is pretty important. They tell you that it should stay out of direct sunlight. It should be at a certain temperature for most of the time. And if that's the case and you're storing a lot of this stuff in your garage, let's say in the wintertime, around here especially, that can actually already be out of specification before you even put it in your vehicle. So our product helps to kind of just balance that out a little bit.
Okay.
And we recommend, you keep your system as full as you possibly can, use good DEF from a reputable seller, and then use a product like ours to help keep the system, working as it should.
Now, because these systems, and correct me if I'm wrong, when they get low, they can potentially trigger a trouble code, and the car may not even restart. Is that correct? If it's
Yeah, that not only if it gets low, if it thinks it's low because of other issues, that'll go into a limp mode. Usually you get a warning maybe around 500 miles that the system's low, that you need to top it off.
Okay.
And then different manufacturers set the lower limits at different ways, but it'll get down to a point where some will actually start and idle, but you won't be able to drive the vehicle any longer, and some won't even start. And sometimes it's more than just filling up the system, that they have to do a reset in there, that you probably will have to have it towed to the shop. So it's even worse. You're towing a camper, you're going on vacation, or you're working and you're using the truck, and you have something like that happens.
Yeah, that'd be a terrible thing to happen if you don't stay on top of the system.
Of course.
Now, it makes me think, not that anybody would do this, but I can see somebody, if you had nothing, and you're not going to want to waste that product per se, but what if you put just that product in, like to a higher than normal or a higher than necessary concentration? Let's say you were trying to just get something in there so your car would have enough to run, for example. Is there any potential for damage if the concentration is not correct?
I mean, it's important to follow the dosage information, and we'll test stuff that, double dose. Somebody didn't realize that they already added it and then added some more to make sure that you're safe on there. But some vehicles do have some DEF quality sensors that are ultrasonic in different ways inside the tank. So it's possible if you went up so high on a dosage, or we've heard of people just putting water in. Okay, yep, I don't have any DEF fluid, I'm just going to put water in, and then it actually will measure and say, no, it knows that it's not the right concentration in there, and a different code will come on, or a warning will come on, like DEF quality warning, then you have to address that.
That's interesting. So you really can't get away with anything more.
Right.
I mean, they really have these emission systems dialed in. So and you've probably, from an engineering standpoint, probably have a lot of time invested in making these products so they are compatible.
Yeah, that's just it. Is that you can make something. You're testing it in a laboratory. You know it's going to work and function, but a lot of time is spent on unintended consequences. What might happen if somebody puts a higher dosage in, or there's all different types of vehicles out there with these systems. So a lot of time is spent on doing no harm. We don't want to cause any issues with these systems.
That's awesome. Some
Very
great
cool.
products. What do you think, Nadine?
Absolutely. No, this was a very insightful conversation, gentlemen, about some amazing products that you guys definitely have a lot to be proud of. So thank you so much for joining us today and sharing all this information with us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you again next time.